The Gamers, Kyla's Rescue, written and narrated by C. Taylor, edited to meet YouTube guidelines. To purchase the unedited book, please click the link in the description. Chapter 12. The next day, both Sheriff and Sky arrived early at the healing center. They checked the critical patients. Some had needed follow-up procedures, which were completed by late morning. Sky noticed a man and small girl by the woman who had had the brain bleed the previous day. She tucked her head and intended to move quickly and quietly out of the surgery so she didn't distress the visitors. The man, however, stood up the moment he saw her and cleared his throat. Sky braced herself for the harsh words she was about to hear. "My wife, she was awake last night," he started, sounded nervous and uncomfortable. "She said you saved her life. If you hadn't caught—" He broke off, emotion stealing his breath. Sky just watched him frozen in place, not understanding what she should do. "I just wanted to say thank you." His eyes were glistening, his tone soft, but Sky could tell he was struggling with what he was saying. Sky said a simple and gentle, "You're welcome." Sky looked down, intending to move, but the man stopped her. Sky braced again. "My daughter made something for you. She wanted to say thank you also, but she hasn't talked since her mother was injured." Sky glanced at the little girl who smiled shyly and held up a string of beautiful flowers found only on Niobe, their stems intricately woven to create a wide band to hang around the neck. Sky had seen them in one of the reference books she read about the planet. It was a tradition to offer one of these on special occasions or as a greeting or thank you. She had tried to ignore when one was given to Jareth upon their arrival, but not her. She had understood why and hadn't taken it personally, but had wanted one from the first time she read about them. Now she was looking at a beautiful little girl, offering her the most amazing one she'd ever seen. Sky's eyes tickled with tears that she fought to control. She bent her knees to shorten herself to get to the little girl's level, making sure to keep enough distance from her to prevent her father from being uncomfortable. "It's beautiful. Did you make it?" she asked the shy girl, who nodded while leaning into her father's leg. She looked up at the father a moment before she continued. "I know it's your custom to put it around my neck, but would it be okay if I put it around my own neck? Please let that not be an insult under these circumstances." Sky flashed a quick glance at the father, saw his instant relief at her suggestion. The little girl smiled, nodded, and reached her hand forward, offering the gift. Sky carefully cupped her hand under the flower loop and closed it around the part furthest from the little girl's hand. The little girl let go. Sky carefully draped it over her head covering and settled it around her neck. "Thank you," she said sincerely. She felt a tear fall from her eye, caught by the fabric covering her face as she stood. The man had his hand extended toward her. Sky looked at the hand, then up at the man's eyes. He looked unsure but determined. Sky cautiously extended her hand, both hands closed, quick rise and drop. The man then quickly pulled his away. Sky smiled and grabbed some sanitation wipes to hand to him. He gratefully accepted, and Sky walked away, pretending not to notice how fast he took several wipes, then used them to clean every inch of his hands. She turned, gave the little girl a quick wave, which was returned by her before leaving the surgery. Lines had gathered in the treatment suite. Sky didn't even look to see how much shorter her line was from Jareth's. She just sanitized her hands, took her station, and called her first patient. She again focused on being as kind and calm as she could, no matter what was said to her. As time passed, she started to realize all her patients were being nice. She couldn't remember any of her previous patients saying or being anything other than kind. No one complained, "If I wasn't in so much pain, I would have been able to get in the other line." No one seemed to be flinching away from her touch. Knowing she must be getting close to the end of her line of patients, she glanced up to see how many she had left. Shock made her freeze a moment before she continued treating her current patient. Both lines extended beyond what she could see. Sky felt her forehead wrinkle in confusion. The line also made her smile. She didn't understand what had happened, but she liked it. By the last day, Sky started to like their routine, critical cases in the morning, all of them healing perfectly. Some were well enough to chat with others in the suite. The mother that Sky had treated the first day was known by all. Apparently, her husband was the magistrate for the planet. This knowledge made Sky's eyebrows rise. It also made his actions toward her the day before more than a little baffling. According to her research, anyone in politics would have never risked being seen interacting with anyone of the race she was pretending to be. She did remember the suite was secluded, no one present other than severely injured patients and the healers that treated them. Most likely, he felt somewhat secure in speaking with her directly. I can never thank you enough. The woman sat up and spoke as Sky checked her scan. Sky smiled at the woman, hoping it showed in her eyes since her face was carefully covered. No need to thank me for anything. It's what I'm supposed to do, she said gently, still unfamiliar with compliments or how to react to them. Well, I've been to some of the most respected healing centers in the known universes. They are missing out on one of the best healers due to prejudice. I've spoken with my husband, and he's agreed to speak with the Consortium Council to lift some of the restrictions for your people. Sky's hand started to shake. She felt a rush of alarm crash through her body, but was careful not to let her panic show to her patients. That's very kind of you. Do you know how soon he'll be speaking with them? I think he made the request for a meeting yesterday. You cannot pass out. You cannot pass out. Sky ordered herself over and over. Do you know if he's going to reference the work we've done here the last few days? Of course, many of your patients have agreed to add their testimony to all the work you've done here. Crap, this was bad. This was so bad. She needed to talk to Jareth now. Would you excuse me? She said calmly and moved to one of the assistant healers, asking where Jareth was, then went straight to the treatment suite. The moment she arrived, she was relieved by how few people were there. They had worked so well together over the last 2 days, there weren't many patients left, and most were just there to either thank the visiting healers or flirt with Jareth. Most were there for Jareth. They all needed to leave, now. She rushed to Jareth, successfully causing the crowd to back away from him. She led him to a private room and made sure the door was closed before talking. You don't need to be jealous, Jareth started with the dimple. There wasn't time to enjoy his teasing. We need to get all of the patients out of the healing center as quickly as possible. She said it in a rush with so much urgency, Jareth's smile disappeared. What is it? He asked, knowing something was wrong. The woman with the brain bleed, her husband is the magistrate, and he spoke with the consortium council to ease the restrictions on harbingers because of her work here. She thought that was all she needed to say. And that's a bad thing? Jareth's response telling her he didn't know. I don't have time to explain why, but there will be a strike on the healing center. When? That was all he asked. Sky's brain was working on organizing the needed information to convince him her request was urgent, only to find out she didn't need to. He believed her. Disoriented, she forced herself to recenter. I don't know, but soon. The problem is we can't tell them about the attack. Jareth thought a moment, then went over to the wall and pulled the emergency airstrike alarm. It instantly triggered an evacuation of the entire center that they could later claim was a technical error if necessary. Neither waited to discuss a plan. They ran out the door and up to the critical patient ward to help move them to the safety bunker as quickly as possible. While they were moving the patients, the first attack sounded in the distance. A privateer ship shot at the city, started at the edges, heading straight for the center. The alarm Jareth pulled activated the building's shields to protect it from an airstrike, but only for so long. Healing centers were usually avoided, but Sky knew this time it would be the main target, and it was all her fault. The first impact shook the building, but the shields held. It was all the motivation the assistant healers needed to quicken their efforts through the deafening explosions and screaming chaos. Once all the patients were safe, Jareth and Sky rushed to the treatment rooms. Too many people thought this would be the safest building and weren't leaving. They looked at each other. Sky knew they had come to make sure there was no Harbinger left that would challenge current Harbinger policy. Without giving it any other thought, she just said, take the cruiser back to the warship, take care of Kyla right before she ran for the front door, ground level. They would come after her, and the healing center with everyone in it would be safe. Smoke-filled air disoriented her for a moment once she pushed through the doors. Her eyes found the road, picked a direction, and ran right in the middle of the road, away from the healing center, as far away as she could get. She heard the explosions behind her, debris scattered, but all she heard was the sound of it. Nothing hit her. They weren't close enough. Had they seen her? She turned at a wider road, kept moving, hoping they would spot her soon. The smoke cleared enough for her to see what was around her. Another explosion. This time she felt the impact and was pelted by some of the debris. She smiled. They were closer. Ahead of her, she noticed a cafe. Didn't understand why she noticed it as she neared. The next explosion made her stumble. Another soon after told her they were hunting her, just her. It also launched her through the window of the building that was pulling her. She landed hard inside. She was cut by the broken glass. It hurt, but no cut had been too deep and no bones had been broken. She scrambled next to the nearest wall, pulling her legs up and tried to make herself as small as possible. The hit squad would need to confirm the kill. They would come for her, but she knew they would need to land first. She had some time. There was a noise from something inside the building, a scrape of something being dragged. She looked toward the sound and saw the little girl that had given her the flowers she still wore around her neck. Her father was pulling her to him. Others were huddled under tables and against the walls. Sky cursed. She turned to the man. Remove your petition to change Harbinger policy. Tell the consortium the healing center was destroyed, even if I managed to stop them from destroying it. Any privateers that die today, hide the bodies and get everyone out of here. She tried to keep her instructions clear. The man nodded and started to move. Everyone, we need to move now, he ordered, and to Sky's relief, they all ran out of the building. Sky was alone. Sky took a deep breath, calmed down enough that her body would move away from the wall and into the middle of the floor. If she had been a harbinger, that last explosion would have killed her. They would believe she was dead. She just had to lie down in an awkward position. Only the really depraved would want to pull back her veil and look. Once the death was confirmed, hopefully they would leave. She heard the privateer cruiser land. It was close. To her horror, she heard blast impacts, screams, and laughter from the privateers that were now enjoying themselves as they made their way to her. Sky crumpled, keeping her legs folded under her, body slumped over, head and neck at a hard and unnatural angle to make her body look as grotesque as possible. The blood oozing from her cuts seeped through the fabric of the costume. She hoped it would act as confirmation. The footsteps grew louder, blasts, screams, the laughter. It all made Sky want to vomit, but she swallowed it down. She took several deep, quick breaths. The moment she saw the shadows through the now gaping hole where the window was, she held her breath. The veil over her face shifted to cover her eyes. Sky's hidden eyes watched. The men walked into the opening and saw her on the ground. Then they cheered. One ran up to her and kicked her. She took the hit and didn't react, held her breath, grateful the privateer either didn't or couldn't kick that hard. Then he did what she hoped would happen if one of them approached her. He pointed his blaster right at her head. Want to see it explode? He yelled at the others. They all cheered, Yes! She needed to move fast. The moment his head moved to look back down at her, her arm shot out and wrapped around his wrist. Squeezing hard, her shoulder against the blaster wrenched his hand into an angle, making it impossible to keep his grip on his weapon. Her other hand grabbed the blaster, snapped his wrist back, making him stumble and fall right in front of her. The other men started blasting, but since the man was in front of her, he took all the hits. His body shook as she took aim and started firing. She took out one, center mass, then the next. Some tried to run. She shot them before they could get away. She counted 5 kills, then counted 7 bodies, and knew Jareth was close. She heard movement from the other side of the hole. Sky, please tell me you're still alive. It was Jareth. Sky's eyes closed in relief as she finally let herself take a breath. I'm fine, she said, but the sound of her own voice made her question her own statement. It came out weaker than she intended, shaky, breathy. She tried to push the man off her, but her arms didn't have the strength. Her injuries, the cuts from the window, the impact of the landing, the kick. She realized what was happening. His head glanced around the hole quickly before it disappeared on the other side of the wall again. Then he appeared again, full body and running to her. Crap, Sky, what happened to you? He moved the man off her with one quick pull and laid her back on the ground, started looking over her body, his hands touching where she'd been cut. I'm okay. The cuts aren't deep. I'm in shock. I just need a minute. She needed to breathe and get herself together. They needed to move, and soon. How do you know they're not deep? His words were frantic. She couldn't let him go into shock, too. She took another deep breath. Because I know how they feel when they're deep. Breathe, Jareth. I'm okay. I need a minute, but I'm okay. Just breathe. Sky forced air into her lungs, forced her eyes to focus. She felt Jareth's hands at the side of her face, his forehead pressed gently against hers. I'm here, Sky. Just relax. You're safe. I'll make sure you're safe. The words calmed her heart rate, quieted her breathing, her vision cleared, her body relaxed and her head bowed, accepting and focusing on the place connected to Jareth's. Her hands raised and closed around Jareth's wrists that held her face. Her face smiled. It felt incredible. She wished they could stay like this forever. Help me up, she whispered. He moved. So did her body, although she felt like she was floating. Soon she was on her feet, and she felt her own arms push against Jareth's wrists. Irrationally, she felt his absence the moment the connection was broken. We need to move. The crew members left on board the ship will come looking for them when they realize they're not responding. Do you know where they landed? Jareth nodded, took Sky's hand, and headed to the back of the building. They made their way around a few buildings, Jareth leading to just north of the craft. The scavenged cruiser looked old, patched together, and barely able to run. The remaining privateers, scruffy, wearing the telltale stitched together body armor, were standing on or around the loading ramp talking over communication pods. That's not standard equipment for privateers, Jareth whispered. Sky shook her head in agreement. Soon a group formed and they moved in the direction of the others. Sky and Jareth took aim. Battle was short and brutal. The pilot that remained on the ship started to race the loading ramp. They both ran, leaping, barely making it onto the ship before the ramp closed and sealed. The inside of the ship was sleek, new, fully equipped. Sky looked around. Some of the features she recognized, but they didn't all fit in the same ship type. The more she tried to identify the model, the more confused she felt. She knew they needed to get to the cockpit, but she needed to identify the model to know how to access it. Jareth pulled her with him. Sky couldn't get her bearings. Everything she was seeing wasn't making any sense, but all of it seemed familiar at the same time. Jareth went down another hall, heading to where most cockpits were located on battlecrafts. Then she remembered, had noticed on their run to the craft, she couldn't see where the disguise was attached to the craft. It had to be. She turned, starting to run back up the hall. Sky, stop running away from me! Jareth screamed, running behind her. Where are you going? The pilot is this way. She knew they weren't, but she didn't have time to explain. She turned, ran to the end of that hall, searched the wall. It had to be here. Sky, what are you looking for? He was sounding frustrated. Hopefully I find it soon because I have no idea how to explain. There, the release. She grabbed and pulled it. A screen extended from the wall, asking for the passcode. She tapped the top corner. Hundreds of lines of cloned code filled a mini window. She scanned through it. She needed to find it. The one word in all the lines that didn't belong. There, Sky got the word and tapped it into the main window. The screen retracted. The door to the actual cockpit whooshed open. The pilot, who was struggling with video feeds that weren't working and portable communication pods that were only emitting an unpleasant screeching noise, was too shocked to react. Jareth wasn't, and shot instantly. The pilot was pushed out of his chair, thudding to the floor. Can you fly a Phase 4 battlecraft? Sky asked after she pulled up another screen and started tapping. Jareth looked at the panel in front of him, tested the controls. Then he looked at the screens. They put the cockpit in the middle of the ship? Why would they do this? What is this? Jareth looked around. Last I was told, it was still in prototype testing. It's known as a chameleon class, self-autonomous once it's correctly calibrated. Pilots are trained to use video feeds instead of physical viewing since that's how the unit learns. They put the cockpit in the middle as a misdirect in case it's ever boarded. Anyone going directly to where the cockpit usually is would end up in a kill box instead. They really did it. Jareth breathed. Sky nodded and tapped faster. Well, I can fly it, but I can't fly it blind. How do we fix the video feeds? Sky stopped tapping, reached under her robes, and pulled out the little clicker. She pressed the center, then put it down on the control panel. The moment she pressed the center, the video feeds cleared and the communication pods stopped screeching. Jareth sat down and took a deep breath. This will be different. Let's give it a try. What are you working on? He asked as he maneuvered the craft. I'm preparing a written report explaining the issues with their communication and video feeds, confirming the elimination of the Harbinger and the destruction of the healing center. final recommendation advising no need for any additional attacks as Niobe is completely crippled with no resources to rebuild their infrastructure. Sheriff chuckled. I like that. Me too. I just pray it works.